Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, everyone, we're near market close on Thursday, August 19th. We're going to take a look at Skillz today. Skillz was requested in the comments, so if you have a ticker that you'd like to see me cover, please drop that in the comments below. I will respond to you if I see it and say that I've added it to the list. So if you don't see me say that I've added your ticker to the list, feel free to drop the comment again or tweet it to me, and I will see it at some point and respond and let you know that I've added it to the list. But just try me if you need to a couple of times. All right, so obviously Skillz is under a lot of selling pressure for most of this chart, or I guess we could say all of this chart, having topped out here in February. And then, there was a bunch of growth stocks that really took a beating, if not starting in February, certainly in March. And so it got wrapped up in a bunch of that. And now is most recently, since the beginning of June, caught under this downtrend after it, sort of tried to swing and break this high, and it was looking relatively positive at that point, but then it just couldn't hold it and got trapped underneath again. And now it's dealing also with market forces that are certainly going against it. I guess I can mention this while we're here. If we do see a sell-off, what I'm looking for potentially, this is fib retracement from what I would be looking for, something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so if we're coming down from this, I would potentially be looking to see what it does at this 355 level. We could get a bounce there, but if it is actually going to come down and dip, I would look for it to bounce off of this purple level and then potentially re-rise to this 355 level and then come down further down to this, say, 331 down to 326. Now, that's if it's going to correct. I don't know that it is. But these also line up pretty well with previous supply and demand zones, which you see right here, resistance that turned to support. And here you have resistance that had also flipped to support here. So, that lines up to me. And if the overall market continues to dip, obviously that will continue, or that will have an impact on Skillz. I don't know, if history tells us anything, sometimes it can be the case that stocks that have been taking a beating while the market was rising, right? While this was happening from February, until now, we'll say, the market was, this is that same time frame. It was about here in February, and it did have a big dip, but then starting in March, it was recovering quite a bit, and then it has come all the way up here. So while the market overall was doing this, Skillz was doing this. And so that may, though I don't know for sure, but the hope there is that it's taken enough of a beating, and that if the market by on large peels back, that it may be a little bit more stable, though we're certainly not seeing that today, coming down almost 4% as the QQQ is actually slightly green. QQQ, if you're not familiar, it tracks the NASDAQ. So if we look back in time and try to grab some zones in this $10 range that previously held as support and resistance, to try to see where there could be some supply and demand zones to hit. This is an area here. You see this bottoming out here versus the topping out here. So 1032, which is a bit higher than where it is right now, actually. And then underneath that, there's not a ton. There's like this zone here around 1004. But then, if we dip below that, then we're basically going to be at all-time lows. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say than that, but it certainly has been a rough go for Skillz. And this channel, it's sort of in a down channel here, but I mean, it's such a steep channel that it's almost not worth plotting. You could grab a little bit of one from here, but it's just going to kind of encompass this this downtrend as well, but we could grab it, so it's going to look like that, right? And even then, it's not really following this channel so much because it's just kind of pinning itself to this bottom trend line, and it's not really making any attempt at the top except for this, when it first kicked off, just to form the channel, and then it's just pinned itself to the bottom ever since. So, that's not even like holding up very well. On the indicator side of things, on the MACD, it is flattening out a little bit, and it's not nearly as deep as it had been in the past. So the bearish pressure is not nearly as bad right now as it was back in this time frame of mid-February down to about late April. What we're seeing now, though, is just sort of like a continuation of that overall trend and trying to cut this bearish momentum, which we saw play out back here as well. It tried to briefly cut this bearish momentum, but it just kind of knocked itself off of that signal line twice now. So sort of refusing to have a bullish crossover. Just sort of like, the worst of all possible situations. I don't mean to laugh at people's pain, but the only other thing that I could see, and we'll look at the MAs and then some data in a minute, is there is this previous gap that it did fill relatively quickly. You see it gapped up, and then it very quickly retraced back down and filled it both from the top and the bottom, and then continued on its way down. Now, the reason I bring that up is because there is this, it's slight, but it's there, this very slight gap down, to which if this was actually going to get filled, I would expect it to fill it relatively quickly, because this filled this within, let's say, the 23rd to the 2nd, and this came up. So in about 3 weeks, say, this was pretty much filling that gap. So this gap came about on August 4th, so I'd be looking sometime in the next week for this to make a run and start filling this gap. So if that doesn't happen, then that gap's not going to play any factor. And I'm not saying that it has to, I'm just trying to sort of cover the different possible bases that could exist here. But this gap is also incredibly small. It does sort of stand out, but it's very, very tiny, right? It's just stretches from 1334 down to 1315, 1316. So, you'll see it on the MACD if this happens, right? You'll have an actual bullish crossover, which it just hasn't been able to muster since here, and that was ever so brief and was just what solidified this topping out and downtrend. Now, if we take a look at two other indicators, we can take a look at the RSI, which I think will just show us that it's, very oversold, as you would imagine. But maybe more interestingly, the moving averages. So the 20 MA, well, first of all of these are in a bearish formation, right? The 200 is on top, and then the 50 below that, and the 20 below that. So it's fully bearish formation. But again, that's what you would expect. The extent to which this 20 can continue to come down and interact with the price action, or the price action come up and start to interact with it, that could allow the 20 to scoop underneath the price action. So you get price action above the 20, like you saw over here, and then that 20 to carry that price up a bit. Now, obviously, that could be temporary, and even if it does reverse trend, like that trend will certainly look like, sort of jogging up and down and up and down. It's not that it'll go parabolically up, but that 20 coming in and scooping underneath the price action could help. I don't know if or when that'll happen, but something to look out for. This to me would be the combo to look at. I would look to see what happens at these price zones down here. It's basically at them at the moments, but beyond that, we don't really have much historically to look at. If we just go to the max time frame, you can see it here, right? This hasn't been around that long. So I'd be looking to see what it does at these areas that previously at least provided some support, and then I'd be looking for the MACD to show any signs of bullish momentum, and then this 20 to come down, and there's any hope of it getting underneath the price action, seeing if it can help lift it up. Now on the data side of things, We have Skillz here. So the short interest is a real thing. You see the utilization is over 91% right now. So that means if it were to get to 100%, for example, 100% means that all shares available to borrow or lend at a lending program have in fact been lent. So that means that short sellers have borrowed as many shares as they can to then short sell into the market. So it's getting very, very close to that. The percentage of the percentage of the free float that Ortex is estimating is shorted as of today is 20.69. Slight reduction, but I mean that doesn't really mean anything. The shorts will come in and out of stocks, certainly from day to day. You see here previously, 7 days ago, it was reporting 23.09. So, like I said, it has come down, but over 20 is still very, very high. I start paying attention to things as they get into double digits, so anything over 10. So this is more than double that. So there's going to be a lot of continued selling pressure, probably. A bunch of it being organically created, obviously, but also artificially created by the short sellers coming into the market. So just know that you will be up against additional selling pressure, additional bearish pressure, because the short sellers have taken note and are pretty heavily in Skillz. So I'm sorry I don't have much good news, but those are the things that I would look for if you're in Skillz or if you're looking to get into Skillz. I'd be looking for a bullish cross in the MACD, additionally supported by the 20 MA getting underneath the price action, and that price action showing some strength above that MA, helping to carry it maybe to this gap, maybe at least out of this downtrend that it's been caught under for a period of time. But obviously it's going to have a tough road back. And then I would certainly keep an eye on the short interest, because that, like I said, is just going to add additional downward pressure to the stock. All right, well, good luck. I hope that you are surviving this challenging day all right. You know, NASDAQ, like we said, had turned green. We saw it in the QQQ, but we're getting some movement here to the upside, but it was it started off a pretty rough day, as I'm sure you were aware of. And, you know, just be smart out there and do what you can. I have a couple of videos in the channel if you want to check them out. Something to the effect of what to trade when growth stocks are selling off and what to trade when the market is crashing. And this isn't me saying that the market is crashing, but if the market overall is having a downward macro trend, it is good to know what stocks go up when the market is going down, and those do exist, and you can trade them just like you can any other stock. And so just look for those on the channel. I'll try to link them above also throughout the channel or throughout the video, and you can click on those if you want to pop over there and just get some extra ideas of, you know, how you could survive downturns in the market. All right, well, I hope that you finish the week strong tomorrow and that you have a nice weekend, and I will see you in the next video.